I found a shiny starter Pokemon from every single generation at the full odds here in Scarlet and Violet, and here's how it went. This entire video is only possible thanks to the second DLC that came to Scarlet and Violet in December of 2023, the Indigo Disc. The Indigo Disc was a fantastic addition to Scarlet and Violet, and it brought a bunch of new characters, a brand new area, and most importantly, new Pokemon. The new area called the Terrarium was split into 4 different biomes, plus an underground cave underneath. There was a bunch of other content added to the Indigo Disc DLC that I'm not going to talk about here, but what I will talk about is kind of the basis of this whole video, and that is the League Club Room and Blueberry Points. By completing various tasks throughout the game, you can earn yourself BP, or Blueberry Points, and spend them on different items here in the Club Room. The most important of these, in my opinion, and for this video, is the biome upgrades that you can get here for 3,000 Blueberry Points. Getting these upgrades allows new Pokemon to spawn in these different biomes, but not just any regular Pokemon. These upgrades allow you to get all of the starter Pokemon ever introduced from Generations 1 all the way up to Generation 8. Be warned though, it is a hefty 12,000 Blueberry Points if you want to unlock all 4 areas and unlock all of the starters. Thankfully, I didn't go at this alone, and with my chat live on stream, I was able to earn enough BP to get all of the upgrades and finally start this hunt. Now, even though these Pokemon are found in the wild at their first evolution stage, they are not weak at all. The lowest you'll find these Pokemon is probably around level 50 or 55, and they can go all the way up to the high 60s. I also had a plan to catch every shiny starter Pokemon in this video in a rare Apricorn Ball that you can get from the Pokelotto machine, also in the Club Room. So we talked about Blueberry Points and how to get the rare Apricorn Balls we're going to use, but there's still one more thing I need to show you guys before getting into the rest of the video. So with these high level Pokemon roaming around, and us wanting to catch them in kind of rare Pokeballs that you don't get too many of, I needed to get a perfect Pokemon to catch other Pokemon. Now there's a lot of different options that I could have chosen here, but luckily the Indigo Disc brought back one of the most perfect Pokemon for this role, and one of my personal favorite Pokemon of all time. That Pokemon is none other than Smeargle. Smeargle is a normal type Pokemon, and it doesn't even evolve, so what makes it so good? I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but Smeargle has a signature move in Pokemon called Sketch. If you use this move in battle, it will copy the last move used by your opponent and then permanently add it to Smeargle's moveset. With that in mind, you can build yourself a perfect Pokemon with Smeargle for difficult catches. I couldn't think of a better Pokemon to get this done, and I decided why not make it a shiny. So on December 21st, 2023, I would find my first full odds shiny from the Indigo Disc DLC. So after catching the shiny French dog, it was time to set it up. Spore, Soak, Thunder Wave, and False Swipe. I also gave Smeargle its hidden ability Technician as well as Silk Scarf. So after completing its moveset and getting it to level 100, it was officially time to start the challenge. But where should I start? Well, I was thinking to myself about this and thought, why not start in the region that started it all for me, the Sinnoh region. So I decided for the Generation 4 and Sinnoh starter that my target would be Turtwig. Turtwig is obviously a fan favorite from Sinnoh, and for good reason. I mean, just look at this thing. But believe it or not, me and this adorable little turtle have some serious beef, going all the way back to the release of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Right when these games were released at midnight, content creators across the internet set off to what we now call the Briefcase Simulator, a grueling shiny hunt for one of the 3 starters in Sinnoh. Not only did the Switch loading times make this hunt extremely long, but there was another catch to it as well. When you pick your starter in Diamond and Pearl or Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, you will automatically start an encounter with a wild Starly. Now, if you don't know, when you first get your starter Pokemon, you won't have any Pokeballs. Even so, while you are soft resetting through the cutscenes from hell here at the Briefcase Simulator, you could go through it all just to find one of these. An uncatchable shiny Starly. So, if you can't tell, unluckily enough, I did in fact find an uncatchable Starly instead of my starter, and a couple thousand encounters later, I got smacked with a second uncatchable shiny Starly. Yeah, the pain I felt in this moment was surreal. I never ended up going back to the Briefcase Simulator to get shiny Turtwig, so I needed to get my get back for sure, and by heading over to the Canyon biome, I was able to make it happen. like I said in the beginning, all of these shinies are found at the full 1 out of 4,096 odds. So that means I can't use the shiny charm, sparkling power sandwiches, or the mass outbreak knockout method to increase my odds. Thankfully, full odds shiny hunting in Scarlet and Violet is kind of a joke, and on December 26th, my first shiny starter would appear. Shiny Turtwig had finally been claimed after years of evading me, and I was happy to see it. The rare apricorn ball I went for this capture was the Safari Ball, which doesn't necessarily match Turtwig too well, but when we show off its evolutions in a minute, you'll see why I went with this. Speaking of, like all starters, there are 2 evolutions we could show for this shiny Turtwig here. The first one at level 18 for Turtwig to evolve into shiny Grottle, which, fun fact, is my sibling's favorite Pokemon. And then finally at level 32, Grottle will evolve into shiny Torterra. An absolute powerhouse from the Kanto region, but I gotta say, I prefer its shiny sprite in the older days where it kinda kept the blue and tealish color that Turtwig and Grottle have. But with that being said, the Safari Ball matches shiny Torterra to a T. So I'm pretty happy with it. And even though I am showing you guys all these evolutions, I'm keeping them as their first stage for now at least. Anyway, with the blue Turt secured, Generation 4 was checked off our list, and the first of our 8 shinies was found. Well, it wouldn't be a shiny hunting video if there weren't any phases in it, right? For those of you new around here, a phase simply refers to finding a shiny Pokemon that you did not want. So the next shiny Pokemon that I wanted to go for our starters was actually Totodile. The thing about Totodile, it is not an easy hunt at all. An outbreak is necessary to hunt Totodile here because if you were to just use water encounter around the water where it spawns, you wouldn't have much luck. So resetting for that outbreak is already tedious enough. The locations that these outbreaks can spawn are not always ideal, and running around to reset the spawns could take a little extra effort. And while I was trying to accomplish that, on December 27th, a different blue shiny and my first phase of the challenge would appear. Shiny Trapinch. I'm a big fan of this whole line, and I'm still a believer in Mega Flygon for Legend ZA, so this was a cool phase. I would then be met with 2 more shiny Pokemon that I wasn't really looking for. The first on December 30th was an Alolan Graveler that I just found randomly here in the Canyon biome. Word of advice, if you find a shiny Alolan Graveler, save beforehand. Thankfully I did, and we were able to catch it. Then, right as the new year turned on January 5th, 2024, I tried hunting Bulbasaur, which is my Gen 1 starter pick by the way, but ended up getting this shiny Dewpider. I don't know what I thought shiny Dewpider looked like until now, but I am a huge fan of this color scheme. Anyway, those were all cool finds, but none of them are what I was looking for. Thankfully, a few weeks later when I picked this hunt back up, a target would finally shine, and it was my choice for the Generation 5 lot of starters, Snivy. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like Snivy is the most slept on starter in Unova. Yes, everyone talks about Oshawott with Legends Arceus. Yes, everyone's talking about Tepig with Legends ZA. But what about my guy Snivy, man? This was my first starter in Generation 5, and I had so much fun playing through Unova with this Pokemon. I think its design is so sleek all the way up the evolution line, so yeah, I was really excited to hunt for one. Snivy can be found in the Savannah biome after getting the Club Room upgrade, and just like with Totodile, this is a Pokemon you'll need to find an outbreak for. The Savannah biome is filled with a bunch of other grass types, so just trying to use Encounter Power here wouldn't work out. So after getting my outbreak and spending some time here in the Savannah biome, on January 18th, Snivy would shine. I went with a Moonball for this capture as I thought the color scheme matched pretty well. And after enjoying some time with my new Serpentine friend here, it was time to show off its evos. First at level 17, Snivy will evolve into shiny Servine. I'm a big fan of Servine's sleek and I don't really give a fuck design. And at level 36, Servine will evolve into shiny Superior. Again, huge fan of Superior, huge fan of its design. You can hate me in the comments all you want. I'm also a huge fan of how this Pokemon moves in the Synchro Machine. But anyway, there's Gen 5, checked off our list, with 2 generations down and 6 more to go. So this next shiny starter has a bit of a funny backstory to it. If you were around for some of my early live streams on the channel during the Indigo Disc release, you would have seen me race a good friend of mine and moderator, Saz, for a shiny Pokemon. That shiny Pokemon was a shiny Duraludon, and I actually talk a lot about that in this video right here, catching all of these shiny dragons at the full odds in Generation 9. Go ahead and check that out if you want some more backstory. But it was about a month later now, and I was ready for revenge. When I mentioned the next starter I was going for, Saz also mentioned that they wanted to hunt this themselves. So in honor of competition and my 1,000 subscriber special stream, I decided why not, and let's race for a shiny Litten. Litten is the shiny starter I chose to represent Generation 7 and Alola, and this is for a couple of reasons. First off, Incineroar jump scare, and the second being this shiny Pokemon spray is amazing. From first, middle, to final evolution, the shiny Litten line looks amazing. Back to important matters though, it was January 27th when our little race took off, and Saz whooped me, again. He found his shiny Litten, I think within 10 minutes of our first sandwich doing this race, so yeah. Shout out Saz, another winner, I'm down 0-2, someone send help. Anyway, I might have lost the battle, but I still was determined to get myself a white kitten. And after spending some time back in the canyon biome,
Liquid versus, oh my god, shiny Litten.
I went with a Sport Ball for shiny Litten, and I think the choice Y is obvious here. But like I said before, this is a very clean spray and I'm happy to have it now. The entirety of this line looks good in its shiny form, so let's show off the rest. At level 17, Litten will evolve into shiny Torracat. I honestly don't have that much to say about this Pokemon, but it looks cool, right? Anyway, then at 34 is the main event where Torracat will evolve into shiny Incineroar, the VGC god himself. Crazily enough, this Pokemon actually has an adamant nature too, which is pretty perfect for Incineroar. With Litten secured, that takes care of the Alola region and our third generation for this challenge. The coastal biome is probably the most aesthetically pleasing of the 4 biomes in the terrarium, and it's here where I'll find my next starter. It was Generation 1's time to shine, and like I mentioned earlier when I phased on that Dewpider, my choice for Generation 1 is Bulbasaur. To be completely honest with you, I am a basic guy, and I do love Charizard, but I've always had this kind of soft spot for the Bulbasaur line. So I wanted to show some love here in the newer generations for it as well. Bulbasaur felt the same way, and it only took one sandwich to find this shiny. And on February 5th, the Flower Frog made an appearance. In my humble opinion, there was only one Pokeball that was right to use on this shiny, and that was the Friend Ball. The colors match it almost to a T, so yeah. This is also the first shiny of the entire video that has a mark. Like I mentioned earlier, all of the hunts for this video were done at the full 1 out of 4,096 shiny odds. That being said, I still got all the boosts I could for things like Teensy Power, Humongo Power, or most importantly for me, Tidal Power. It's a little unfortunate that this is the first, and slight spoiler, only shiny Pokemon that has a mark throughout this entire video. But one is better than none, and Bulbasaur the Sleepy is here. Not only does this starter have a mark, but it's also a female. It's actually a lot harder to find a female of a starter Pokemon than it is a male. At level 16, Bulbasaur can evolve into shiny Ivysaur. Another middle evolution I've always really enjoyed. I don't know, I think I have something for like the mean looking middle evolution Pokemon. Finally, at level 32, Ivysaur will evolve into shiny Venusaur. Another Pokemon I absolutely love the Synchro Machine with is just a big toad hopping around. With the Kanto Shiny Starter found, I am now halfway through this challenge, as 4 generations of starters have been found. After reaching the halfway point, my motivation to finish this was at an all-time high, and I set back out to try to find the next generation starter from Generation 6, Shiny Fennekin. As much as I'd love to talk about Fennekin right now though, I got hit with some more phases. The first of which is actually something kind of crazy. So Fennekin can be found in the Savannah biome once again, and just like with Snivy, there are a lot of other fire types that spawn in this area. So the best course of action, instead of using Encounter Power 3 for the fire type, is getting an outbreak of Fennekin. And that's exactly what I did. But as I was shiny hunting in this Fennekin outbreak and resetting the spawns, something else decided to shine instead. A random shiny Rowlet. This is funny for so many reasons. One, it is a random shiny starter that I found while looking for another shiny starter. Second, I already found a shiny starter from Generation 7. As you just saw, we found shiny Litten. So I do not need a shiny from Generation 7 for this video anymore. Obviously, I'm not going to let this little fella roam around and going to snag him in the quickest Pokeball I can. Now, even though this was not on the planned list of starters, it is in fact a shiny starter, so why not show off its evolutions? At level 17, Rowlet will evolve into shiny Dartrix. I have nothing to say about Dartrix. And then at level 34, Dartrix will evolve into shiny Decidueye. Now you might be thinking, hold up, wait a minute. What about the other one? Now, unless you've been under a rock in the Pokemon community for the last few years, you would know that this starter Pokemon actually has another form. And that is actually the Pokemon that this Rowlet will end up being. This random find is actually a part of a much larger video that I've been working on for some time now. So you'll see it again real soon over in Hisui. Until then, enjoy that bonus shiny starter. Soon after our little bird friend appeared, another random shiny would show up right at the start of stream. As soon as I loaded into the polar biome area, this shiny Minccino decided to spawn. A very cute shiny that I can't say I ever would have hunted otherwise, so this is pretty cool to have. But enough with the phases, let's get back to business. So remember how like 2 minutes ago I found one shiny starter while looking for a completely different one? Yeah, that happened again. But this time though, it was in fact one of my targets. I swapped over to hunt my choice from Generation 8, Sobble, which is still in the Savannah biome by the way. I did not mean to be here this much. But instead of checking Galar off the to-do list, Shiny Fennekin is absolutely phenomenal, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Yes, when you think of Generation 6 starters, your first thought probably goes to Shiny Greninja, and honestly, same. But I would easily give my second favorite spot to the first stage here of Shiny Fennekin. The silver and the red just complement each other so well, and it really fits the elegant, classy feel that Fennekin brings. This was another cool find for me, like Turtwig. Back when I first got Pokemon X and Y, this was my first ever Masuda Method hunt. At level 16, Fennekin will evolve into Shiny Braixen. And even though I'm more of a fan of Fennekin's color palette, I think the purple color on them is amazing. Finally, at level 36, Braixen will evolve into its final form, Shiny Delphox. And with that, Generation 6 and Kalos are off the list. There is only one biome at this point that I have not found a shiny starter in, and that's the polar biome. There are a lot of cool options for shiny hunts here in terms of the starters, but my choice was Generation 3 starter, Torchic. This hunt was difficult, and it was also the highest number sandwich hunt that I had throughout this entire video. But even though it was difficult and long, this still was not the worst hunt of the challenge, but I'll get to that later. To hunt for a shiny Torchic, you'll need to find this cave all the way in the back of the polar biome. And then it involved just running into this cave, checking a bunch of Torchic, running back out, and doing it again. It was hard to be as efficient as my other hunts when I had this confined space for resetting the spawns. But I pushed through, and on February 24th, I went with a fastball for the catch here, which I think works for both the colors and the characteristics of the Pokemon. I fully plan on going back to Generation 3 to get another one someday. But until then, we can enjoy it here in Generation 9. And at level 16, Torchic will evolve into Shiny Combusken, whose model looks very small in this game for some reason. Then, at level 36, Combusken will evolve into a fan favorite, Shiny Blaziken. I think the subtle changes on Shiny Blaziken fit it well, and not every shiny needs to have some extravagant change to be good. And that's Generation 3 and the Hoenn Region shiny checked off the list, leaving just 2 more generations to complete this video. It was at this point that I started looking back and enjoying my time with some of the shinies that I've already found, when I realized I had a severe lack of water types. The 7th shiny starter for this generational challenge will be Sobble from Generation 8 and Galar. Similar to some of the other Pokemon I've chosen, Sobble was my first starter in the Galar region when playing through Sword and Shield. And I did always want to go back and get a shiny Sobble in these games after getting my Score Bunny, but hatching eggs is my least favorite shiny hunting method, so I never did it. Thankfully, the Indigo Disc has brought me an opportunity to finally get this shiny, and on March 7th, I went with a Love Ball for shiny Sobble, as I think the pastel colors match it very well. At level 16, Sobble will evolve into Shiny Drizzile. This is one Pokemon I do not want to see in a back alley late at night. Get your tongue away from me. Then, for the last in the line, at level 35, Drizzile will evolve into Shiny Inteleon. This Pokemon looks so good in both its normal and shiny sprites, and running around with it in the Synchro Machine just proves that theory even more. Like, this is Drip King right here, hello? And with our depressed tadpole here captured, there was only one more generation to complete. And it involved going back to the shiny starter that I've been hunting since almost the start of this challenge, Shiny Totodile. Like I mentioned earlier, Totodile is in the Savannah biome just like Sobble. But the amount of time that I had to spend looking for not only any outbreak of Totodile, but one that is actually viable to use to hunt was absurdly long. To put it in perspective for you, I found Shiny Sobble on March 7th, and then Shiny Totodile, July 7th. 4 months later. I would just get on, look for an outbreak for like an hour, and then give up. Despite all of my bitching and moaning, I eventually got a decent Totodile outbreak to hunt in, and like I said, on July 7th, this challenge would finally come to an end. It was very nice finally seeing a shiny Totodile here in Generation 9. Although if I'm being nitpicky, the Generation 4 sprite looks so much better. And if you think I'm wrong, go check out this video right here. The Lure Ball was the obvious choice for shiny Totodile here, and I'm happy with how it looks. We have 2 more evolutions to show here, starting at level 18 where Totodile will evolve into shiny Croconaw. Look at this hefty boy. And last but not least, another favorite of the region. At level 30, Croconaw will evolve into shiny Feraligatr. And there you have it. Generation 2 can be checked off, and a shiny starter Pokemon from every generation has been found. Well, not really. See, if I were to end the video right here, I already know some of you would comment, shiny starter from every generation? What about Generation 9? That's a generation. You even included Legends Arceus, but you won't include Generation 9? Luckily for me, I have that covered. If you thought these shiny Pokemon took a long time to get into a video, just wait until you see this next one. On December 13th, 2022, I was at the end of the base game of my Violet Badge Quest, and still had no shiny starter to my name. So I decided to do a starter roulette and make eggs for all 3 different species and see which one shines first. So after gathering a boatload of eggs, I would finally start hatching them when the new year came in 2023, where I would quickly get one of my most insane shiny encounters I think ever. After only 140 full odds eggs, a shiny Sprigatito hatched. Unfortunately, this was a time in my content creation career where I didn't have a proper setup to record audio and things, but I was losing it here. Sprigatito is my favorite starter here in Generation 9 and Paldea, so the fact that this was the Pokemon that shined, and it only took 140 encounters to find, is nothing short of insane. Now you might be thinking, what insane luck? And you're right, absolutely. But everything balances out, people. And I have been hunting for the other 2 starters since I got Sprigatito. I have found neither of the 2 shinies. To be fair, this is not a hunt that I do often, and it is something I pick up every once in a while. But I am still over 7,000 eggs since Sprigatito with no shiny Fuecoco and no shiny Quaxly. But the conclusion to that story will have to be saved for another video, because now, along with a bunch of cool bonus finds, I now have a shiny starter from every generation here in Scarlet and Violet. Let me know in the comments what shiny in this video did you like the best, or let me know what starters you would pick to shiny hunt from every generation here in Scarlet and Violet. This is one of many videos I've been sitting on making for a long time, if you can't tell by the dates of these shiny finds. But with Legends ZA right around the corner, I really have no time to waste, so expect some more videos from me soon. But until then, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching.